Across Israel, there are thousands of girls that are being lured into relationships with Arabs and brought into Arab villages, sometimes tortured, sometimes held against their will, creating environments for them that are abusive and stuck for the rest of their lives. Who's out there making a difference in this? Well, I heard of this amazing organization called Learn and Live that is literally catering to thousands of young women and saving them before they enter into these marriages, into these arrangements, into these relationships, and many times, even afterwards. They're providing counseling. They're protecting them. They're literally on the streets, saving Jewish teenagers and young adults. This blew me away. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized this is a real issue. And thank God, there is an organization like Learn and Live that is taking this on. And with their help, and with all of our helps, we'll be able to save so many wonderful Jewish souls.
Their work couldn't be more important because each child that they save from this horrible fate is a life in the people of Israel, and we should all be thankful for the work that they do, and they should really be supported. Thank you very much.
Shalom from Israel. Thank you for coming. Thank you for caring. I'd like to tell you a little bit what's going on here with this problem of Jewish girls going with Arabs. You take a normal teenager who is having some kind of difficulty with her parents. What teenager doesn't have difficulty with their parents? Who's needy and vulnerable and out there. And you take a population of Arabs that have been instructed to go after the Jewish girls and to trap them. It's Islamic law. And what happens is get them. So bombs have become flowers and boxes of chocolate, and our girls are falling like flies. From girls, I've worked with Beis Yaakov girls, I've worked with Beis Yaakov principals. It has hit our community in a terrible way. We work with all the girls, not just the ones in our community. I'll tell you a couple stories of how these things happen. There's a girl, she happened to be the great-great-grandchild of one of the Gur Rebbes from way back when. She obviously had schus avos. She was on a beach in Tel Aviv. She skipped out of school one day and went to Tel Aviv, went to the beach. She was sitting by herself, and somebody runs by and steals her purse. She gets up, she screams. Another guy out of the blue comes, runs after the guy, comes back to her and says, "I'm sorry, I couldn't catch him. Here, call your phone. Take my cell phone and call your phone." Sometimes they throw that by the side. So she calls her phone, no answer, and he says, "Do you need money to get home? Do you need a ride? Can I help you with anything? You need to use a phone?" And all of a sudden, this person who a frum girl would never talk to or minimize the conversation. She's a normal, frum, Beis Yaakov girl with a healthy fear of strangers and knowledge of staying away from men. But all her resistance has just gone down. All her boundaries have been moved. Here's a guy just ran after her purse. She's like, "Wow, thank you so much." And he's trying to help her. And she says, "I don't know what I'm going to do. I live in Jerusalem." And he said, "Ah, I just happened to be going to Jerusalem with my car." A true story. So she gets in the car with him. And he takes her home. And on the way home, she hears him speaking Arabic on his cell phone. And she freezes. She didn't know he was an Arab. Speaks fluent Hebrew. So he notices that she's tense, and he says, "What, you didn't know I was an Arab?" And she says, "No." And he says, "Don't be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to take you home." "What, you really think we're all terrorists?" Takes her home, drops her off, right? Nothing happens, right? And now she gets a new cell phone, and he has her number. And he calls her and says, "Hi, beautiful. Can't stop thinking about you." She just had a fight with her mother, ignores her, no attention. And even though she knows it's wrong, and even though it's an Arab, something melts inside of her. Nobody ever talked to her like that. And he keeps in touch with her. There's a 2 to 3 month window where they're wined and dined and nice talk, and they quote-unquote prove themselves to be safe. And the girls fall for it, and they fall in love, and they say, "This guy's different." They say to themselves, This guy would never hurt me. Look how nice he is to me. And they buy them and buy them, things like you can't imagine. Many of the girls that fall for the Arabs come from poor homes. And they don't have a telephone, they don't have an iPhone, they don't have all the things that everybody else has. And they're given everything. They're taken to a mall, and the guy goes with a charge card and says, "You're a princess. Let me buy you whatever you want." And store after store, and they bought her presents. Somebody saw this girl, this Beis Yaakov girl, in the old city, sitting on a bench with this Arab. She didn't know her. She knew her from the gym. She recognized her. She saw she was with this guy. She goes up to him and she realized he was an Arab, and she says, "What are you doing?" So she took her away, and they went for a walk, and they were talking, and she said, "It doesn't mean anything to me. I'm gonna marry a frum guy. He just likes to spend time with me. He just likes to spend time with me. He just likes to buy me presents." Naivete, stupidity, adolescence, whatever you want to call it. She said, "I watch my drink. I'm really careful. Nothing is going to happen." If you go back in your mind and you think the things you did when you were 17, you can get an understanding what these girls are going through and how they're making decisions. So he called her and called her and called her. And one time she was stuck and she didn't have a ride. He picked her up again. He took her home again, never touched her, never hurt her, never made any kind of abusive or even any touching, nothing, right? Just nice, kind, listening ear, warm words, and made her feel good about herself. So this girl saw her on the bench in the old city, and she brought her into us. And we spent hours with this girl, and hours and hours and hours. And I had to promise her I wouldn't call her mother. I said, "I won't. I'll talk to you. I won't do anything without your permission." And we couldn't get anywhere. She said, "No, you don't understand. It doesn't mean anything to me. Nothing's going to happen." Right? So she promised me she was going to watch her drink and she wouldn't get into a car with him again. And I met her once a week, and we'd go out to eat, and I told her she was a bas melech and how Hashem loves her and has somebody waiting for her. And all the right words and all the things you're supposed to say, and nothing worked. And then she got in the car again with him. And I said, "You promised. If it was your daughter, what would you do? Where would you turn? These daughters, they're Hashem's daughters, they're our daughters. We can't look at these girls, but they're not ours, they're ours." The founder of the organization said, if it was your daughter, you wouldn't sleep at night until you got her back. Should we do less for these girls? First of all, if nothing else, no, there is a war going on. They're after our girls. We're totally politically incorrect. The media doesn't cover this properly. Israel, but if you get into an Arab village, there's no laws. Nobody wants to go in there, not even the Israeli army. And our staff will go and save a girl. But again, our focus is getting the girls before they get trapped, because once they're trapped, not only it's life-threatening to go in and save a girl, it's tragedy for the girl. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Mezeh. These are our daughters, and please help us save them.
There's no law against a girl running off with an Arab. So there are two things that we have to consider. One is how we could prevent this from ever happening, and who's going to do it. So the only way to prevent this isn't by chaining girls down or scaring them with horror stories. They've heard the horror stories, and the horror stories are true, and they know it's true. They know about girls who can't leave the home. They know about girls who have oppressive, angry, bitter, violent husbands who hold them under surveillance. These stories are true, and they know them. What they don't know is that the charming young man who they met could ever be like the horror husband that they've heard about. You have to ask yourself how you could just sit back and say, nobody is taking care of the girls. You have to provide for them. And again, the formula is love, warmth, relevance, and a place to be. So it's from this perspective that Turn and Live is a place where they can go to get this. So my wish for you is that you have the merit to help them. because you need the merit and they need your help. Have a good day.